So tonight's session will be about 20 minutes, I think, of me giving an introduction to our topic and then offering a guided visualization exercise so that you can have a go at bringing that into your life. As I was saying, every element, every topic that we use for these sessions, I think we've got 5 now planned, are the central pillars of systemic constellations. So I'm going to present them, the background to them, and then basically you can just allow that to flow. I'm going to offer different insights around the topic so that some of those will kind of land with you and maybe you'll recall them and some won't, but that's quite deliberate. So don't try and remember it all, and you can return to the recording whenever you want. The videos and stuff will be shared by the WhatsApp group and email, I think. So if you are not part of those groups then and you're watching this video and you want to be, then let Kate or I know. I've pulled together the content for these sessions. It's a mix of my favorite writers of constellations and the best bits of wisdom that I've received from my teachers. And all of my teachers come from the Centre for Systemic Constellations, which is based down in London, who I've been training with for years. And another point just to make is that if you're watching this video and you're part of tonight's session and you don't have any knowledge of constellations, which is perfectly fine, if you want to know more about constellations, let us know. And we've got videos that are a description of the technique itself. So it's not specifically for people who are constellating, but if you want to find out more, you can. This evening's topic is one of the fundamental principles of systemic constellations that underpins absolutely everything. It's the very, very first starting point, and it's agreeing. So agreeing, accepting. Bert Hellinger, who is the founder of Family Constellations, would refer to it as consenting. But that idea of radical acceptance of what is very much a founding element of constellations. So the first thing I'm going to do is just quickly read some of Bert Hellinger's words from 2007 on consenting. And by consenting, he means agreeing to what is. So he says, as soon as I've agreed to other persons as they are, they can feel at ease. As soon as I've agreed to a situation as it is, it changes. It reveals to me new possibilities for actions. On an inward journey, I may experience that an obstacle stands in my way. Often it is something that I have not yet agreed to. For instance, a pain or a loss that I have not got over, or something that must be resolved. There is something else to which I must agree. Maybe the time that I really need. And as soon as I've agreed that I need more time, time leaves me in peace and I may move on. As soon as I have agreed to everything as it is, I gain precious time. As I stay in peace with myself, something in me and outside of me grows as if of its own accord. When I have agreed to everything as it is, I feel a change. I feel free to engage in the essential aspects of life, and I may move forward in a decisive manner. My teacher from Systemic Constellations, Gaye Donaldson, used to say, and it really, really resonates with me, and I use this a lot. So her description of it is that unacceptance is really expensive on our body and on our spirit and also on our pocket, because it is so often what we are spending money on trying to fix. So for me, the principle of agreeing is an element of constellation work that over the years has made it more like my spiritual path, or it for me, this is one of the elements that makes constellations like a faith or a way of living rather than just a tool or a technique. And it can also cause it can cause controversy and challenge, because it's in constellating, it is a very radical inclusion of everything. And as a constellator, I have to realize that asking people to agree to everything can be very challenging, and it can be the first time that they've been asked to do that, because there can be elements of their situation, of their family system, that agreeing to those feels absolutely wrong. It feels unfair. It feels like it is being unkind to ourselves or those people who came before us. But I have years of experience now of knowing that when we can absolutely agree, things completely shift. So it's not a passive way of saying that everything was okay or everything is okay. You can agree that everything is not okay, but there is still a process of agreement. For me, deciding to do my best to agree to the world as it is means accepting the beautiful stuff alongside the ugly stuff. So constellations is really looking for it to encourage people to allow all of that to be part of the world and part of life. So rather than just agreeing to a world that is kind and beautiful and easy, you also have to agree to the world that is difficult and ugly and challenging. So it's accepting the generous and the selfish. It's agreeing to the love and the fear, the joy and the devastation. But constellations basically states that it requires courage to do that, and also that this is something that you have to agree to again and again and again, because it's not easy, and it doesn't just happen. Although re-agreeing to life as it is does bring rewards and creates possibility and space, and basically brings energy back to the individual who can agree. Where we come into some kind of some challenge and controversy is that agreeing to everything means agreeing to things that society can find abhorrent, as well as what we find acceptable. But as I was saying, it's not a position of passivity or apathy. Choosing to agree is the path to creating freedom for something else. So as Bert Hellinger says, as soon as I agree, it changes and new possibilities arise. So we are agreeing in order that we can find the place where change happens and new possibilities arise. We're not agreeing to be passive or apathetic. I also want to kind of throw in the definition that Judith Hemming shares, and she was one of Bert Hellinger's first students. And because this really is a poetic way of talking about agreeing, and it really resonates quite deeply with me. Her definition was that love is the unguarded inclusion of everything. And I've not got anywhere near experiencing an unguarded inclusion of everything, but I can get hints of what that is, and I hold that as a ambition. So and as a constellator, I'm looking to help people access that as much as possible, or even just an imagination that could be possible. As a constellator, I'm searching for what has not been agreed to by the client or by the system. So, and usually the things that have not been agreed to, or not allowed, or not accepted, or not being included, there's a real kind of, usually there's a kind of sinkhole of energy. So people are being distracted by that to maybe mildly or absolutely in a debilitating way. So where energy is being used to disagree, or to avoid, or to divert, or pretend, my job as the constellator is to illuminate that as clearly as possible, so that that can't be ignored anymore, and so that everybody gets their truth back, so that all of the energy can be cleared around the diversion or the disagreement. So going back to Gaye Donaldson from the Centre for Systemic Constellations, one of the ways that she describes it is that in the effort of agreeing, we might absolutely have to be angrier for longer, or we might have to stay in disagreement for longer, and that's okay. But eventually it will be the time to agree. And that's, again, an important part of what I'm sharing this evening, that stories can take generations to heal, and that's as it needs to be. That too has to be agreed to right now. But we're always looking to kind of move that through the generations. So in constellations, we're always looking for where the energy of agreement is blocked. And one of the reminders that we always draw back to ourselves as constellators is that the very first time a newborn baby gets to agree is the reaching out survival mechanism that is attaching itself to mum or first carer. And that reaching out of a newborn baby is the yes energy. It's the agreeing to life energy that happens for babies when they're born. And constellations is about returning the client to their birthright, which is the yes energy. And we all have it, and if there are things in the way of it, then constellations can help to clear the way. Often in constellations, we use a very powerful ritual, which for those of you who've seen constellations or are aware of it might have come across, which is very simple, but it is the act of bowing. So it can be however grand or however subtle the client or the representative in a constellation feels, but even just putting your hands together and nodding forward to the person or the circumstance or the act or the challenge that presents itself, just allowing that to be there can be hugely powerful. And some people I have seen people properly get down on their knees in a constellation, and completely submit to the element that is that needs to be allowed and agreed to. And I've also seen people just really gently close their eyes and a very, very small nod of the head, but it doesn't really matter what the presentation of a bow looks like. It's just the fact that it was able to happen, that can completely shift so many parts of that family system. So it's about bowing to what is, all of the wonder, all of the horror, just knowing that that is it. And it's hugely, hugely powerful. So I could share so much more about agreeing, and I'm sure it will come up in the future sessions, because with it being one of the absolute kind of core principles, it goes on to show itself throughout the other principles that we will be discussing in the future sessions as well. But for today's session, what I'm going to do now is guide you through an exercise that allows you an opportunity to agree to your system and to everything that is at the moment. And it's best to do this in a kind of comfortable, maybe even meditative state. So you might want to get into a comfortable position and close your eyes. So agreeing to what is present, as I've said, is a constant challenge. It is for me every day. Even when I have absolute total awareness of what I am not allowing, it does not mean that just knowing that you're not allowing it can switch it over. So I think it's happening every day to all of us. I guess the skill is seeing it, catching it, deciding that it's not where you want to be, and then maybe seeing if you can step into agreement, and noticing if you can get that time from noticing to agreeing reduced a bit, just because it's likely that if you're in a state of not agreeing, that it won't feel great. So there's a big, strong, protective part of our mind that doesn't like the idea of agreeing for lots of reasons. It absolutely sometimes for me feels like agreeing to this would feel weak or vulnerable, or like I'm just a pushover. And I know that's the part of my mind that is trying to protect me. And it can also, that part of our mind can also present agreeing as some kind of existential crisis, because if we just agree to everything that absolutely is and it's all fine as it is, then what's the point? Like, what am I here for if there's nothing to fix? So, and of course, that's not the point. The point is that we agree in order to experience what is ahead with fresh energy and vitality. So it's not passive, as I've said. But these are very common. That too, we agree to that part of ourselves too. So I invite us tonight to work as a community whether we're part of the session live or whether we're listening to this at some other time, to attend to our agreeing again and again, and then we can just see what happens. The exercise that I'm going to offer now originates in work that that comes from the Realms program and Shifted program, and I know lots of people who are here tonight and also watching the video back will have done this exercise before, and it's called the Thread of Life. And when I was planning for tonight and I was thinking about what exercise to do, it suddenly struck me that the exercise that I'll take you through now, called the Thread of Life, really is a beautiful way of gently agreeing to precisely what is. So there is a version of this which involves a lovely stone and some wool and a stick, and I hope that maybe we're in a group together at some point, we can do that. But this evening, we're going to use our imagination. If you absolutely prefer to draw or write rather than visualize, then you can do this in a notebook as well. Or you could try the visualize technique, and then you could try the drawing technique and see which one works best for you. Again, another way to kind of learn a bit about how tools help you. But this is so I'm going to guide you through the way of doing this just with your mind, and I'll offer a few pointers for people who prefer to write. So just before we start the visualization, let's just take a moment to focus on our breath. So just notice where you feel the breath in your body. Maybe you can feel it entering through your nose and leaving through your nose. Maybe you can tune into how it moves your ribs out and then in. And maybe you notice how it moves your belly up and down. And if you haven't already, you might want to close your eyes. And maybe just noticing that with a few breaths, you're a bit calmer, a bit stiller, a bit more grounded. And now I invite you to imagine in your mind's eye that you're in a forest, a beautiful forest of your making. Maybe there's sunshine coming through the leaves, but it's just as you would want a forest to be. So it feels safe. And there's nobody else around. And there's a clearing in this forest that you can walk around. It's lovely to walk over. the leaves, the ground. It feels held, feels safe, feels secure. It feels like a lovely day to be in this amazing forest. Maybe you can hear the noises of the forest, just helping you to feel more calm and more safe, and like you're exactly in the right place. And in the middle of this clearing, there's a really lovely, huge tree, sunshine warming its bark. And you can lean back on that tree. You can feel its wisdom and its age and its resource on your back, like it's giving you this energy, like it's reminding you that you are part of nature and that it's welcoming you back to this safe place. And with this tree behind you, giving you all of that support, there's a path straight ahead of you. And it's a clear, sunlit path. It's inviting. And this is the path of your unique and amazing life. Now, as you look at that path, it might have some dips and some bumps, might have a little twist, might have a turn. As you look ahead, it might have some drier bits, some shady bits, some sunny bits, some muddy bits, but it's your path, your unique path, and it's all perfect and okay. So you notice that you've got pockets full of your very favorite precious objects. Maybe they're feathers, maybe they're stones, maybe they're shells. Maybe they're a mixture of all of these things. But these are what you're going to be able to use along this path to mark key moments. So you lean away from the wonderful tree that's behind you and you take your first step forward. And you place a marker on the path. And this first step forward is you taking birth. Just starting out on your path of life, your unique life. Here it all starts. Once you've placed that marker, you take a few steps forward, exploring this path of your life. And you place markers along your path at the points that grab your attention. You don't dwell on them, you just flow along your path. So just notice where you put your next marker and what that represents for you. And this is your process and your time to enjoy stepping along your unique path of life and putting your markers along the way. These might be wonderful celebratory things. The moment you remember moving house is one that comes to me. Maybe there's a moment at school, maybe there's a moment of leaving home. Every time you do this exercise, it could be completely different. And maybe tonight is not the night to include the big, big things. That's okay. Just be kind to yourself. Maybe tonight's the night for breezing down this path, just placing a few markers and being comfortable with that. But it's your exercise, it's your time, they're your markers, it's your path. Now, this is something that you can attend to for a long time. And it's also something you can do quite quickly. It's something that you can do as we're doing right now in our mind's eye, and it's something that you can do in a real wood with real objects. Something you can do on a piece of paper with pencil or paints. But tonight we're just using our imagination. If you're watching the video back, you could pause it now and you could spend as much time as you wanted to on this path. But just to keep the time contained for this evening, I'm going to suggest that wherever you are on your path of exploration is perfect for today. Maybe you've got to the bit of your path that is the present day. Maybe you've barely made it down the very first investigation. That's absolutely fine. But now, in your mind's eye, just turn yourself around on this path and face back to look at the tree where it all started. And now the invitation is to walk back towards that tree along the path. And wherever there is a marker, you pick up the marker and you just quietly bow to whatever that marker was representing. The bow that says, that's precisely how it was. I agree to that, and I take the object. And you just go past each of your markers doing exactly the same thing. And maybe when you pick up the marker, you absolutely have no recollection of what it represented, and that's absolutely fine. And you just bow anyway. And maybe some of those markers offered tough things. It's hard to bow. That's okay. Maybe today isn't the day that that happens. Just see how it is for you. But eventually, after having walked back towards the tree, agreeing to the perfection of that life path, however it was, you have all of your markers back in your pocket. Maybe they feel different now. And when you get back to the tree, you can imagine your back against that lovely trunk again as you settle back against it and look at the path ahead. Feel the resource from that huge, wise tree. And maybe with a hand on your heart, with the tree supporting you, knowing that you are in a safe, held, supported place. You can bow to the path ahead of you that represents your unique life And in bowing, you accept every element of it. And as you stand up, just notice how that feels. To be stood, maybe with the warm sun above you, the tree behind you, the path ahead of you, and maybe an experience of absolute acceptance where there's no resistance, there's no resentment. There's just what is. So just as we end the exercise, gather everything that you want to take with you from this experience and leave behind anything that you don't want to take with you. That's your choice. And slowly bring a little bit of movement back into your body so that you know that you're coming out of your visualization and back into your body and the room that you're in and the space that you're in this evening or whenever you're using this video. And wriggling toes, stretching arms, having a bit of a yawn. You might want to move your head from left to right, whatever you want to do to just bring yourself back, and eventually, with no rush at all, you can open your eyes and just notice, take a moment to just notice what that feels like. And if journaling is something that you like to do that works for you, I would suggest that after an exercise like this, you may want to see what notes are useful to capture, or using whatever practice that you've got to just gather any insights that you got. Similarly, there is also the option with constellations to do absolutely nothing and to trust that the work that you've done in this exercise is operating on a systemic level, and that there will be settling and there will be clearing, and that it's not a job of yours to fix, that it is just you have attended to it and there will be the clearing in the system. So that completes the exercise on agreeing and acceptance and consent. And I hope that it's been useful. If at any point after doing any of these exercises, there's something that you would like support with, something that you're curious about or you want to speak to somebody about, then absolutely get hold of Kate and I, and we'll provide you with the support that you need.